What's up, YouTube? In this video, I'm gonna break down Floyd's Mayweather's resume. Okay, I'm gonna go through it mainly just for 147 because we're gonna sit here and talk whether or not Floyd Mayweather was a cherry picker. Okay, now that he's fighting Andre Berto, you guys see my rant on it. I definitely dislike the fight. I hate that fight, but whatever. I know it's his last fight. This video is not really about Andre Berto, but everybody's saying Floyd's a cherry picker, So I'm going to go down his name since he's been like Money Mayweather. Go down the list. And then I'm going to also throw some names out there. And at the end, I'm going to talk about the fighters that I wanted Floyd to fight. Okay, so we're going to talk about, we're not going to do 130 because at 130, he wasn't a superstar yet. That's the division where he did most of his fighting at, okay, coming up, willing to fight anybody at that time. 135 and 140. He was just cruising through those divisions, getting the title and moving on, all right? And when he got 147, and he pretty much campaigned at that weight division, all right? He fought Oscar. That was his big fight at 154. It's been 5 divisions, but we're going to mainly talk about his fight since he moved up to 147 and whether or not I thought they were cherry pick fights, okay? All right, now, let's start off with Zab Judah, all right? Zab Judah, I know I think he had just recently lost to Valdemir, okay? I like the fight, because I personally love Zab Judah, okay? If you're from New York, you love Zab Judah, you always knew when Zab was fighting. Zab was one of those guys that was on a come up, beating guys, and you always watch this fight. Whenever he's fighting in New York, you watch his fights, It was a big deal in New York when Zab fought someone. So I like Zab just as much as Floyd at the time. That was like a dream match at that time for me. I was a lot younger at that time. But it was a big deal to me when they fought each other, okay? So I love the fight. I've always wanted to see that fight because they both were so fast. And I love the fight. I don't think it was a cherry pick fight. Him coming to 147 fighting Zab, who had been already fighting bigger guys. I thought it was a great fight, all right, and a great matchup, okay? So was that a cherry pick fight? No, And he fought Valdemir. Valdemir was coming off a couple wins. He had beaten Zab. He beat Arturo Gatti. This is not a fight I cared for, okay? It wasn't a cherry pick, no, but it wasn't a fight. It was a fight that I looked at like, Floyd's going to beat this guy and outclass him. It's not going to be competitive. That's the way I look at it. But he's just, fighting at 147. So at the time, I still think it was a little too early to sit here and start saying that he was a cherry picker because Valdemir did come off a couple good wins and he was a solid fighter. It's just that it was an easy fight for Floyd at the time, but Floyd wasn't a superstar yet. Then he fight Oscar, all right? This is the fight that shot him up to superstardom. I love this matchup, okay? This was the biggest matchup of all time at that time as far as pay-per-view buys. I was a huge Oscar De La Hoya fan at the time, too. I loved Oscar. I wanted to see this fight bad, okay? And I knew Floyd was going to win. I thought Floyd was going to win, but it was a great matchup. This is one of Floyd's best wins in his resume. Oscar had lost already, all right? He lost at middleweight. He lost to Bernard Hopkins. He lost to Shane Mosley a couple times. But still, Oscar still was that big like pay-per-view draw at the time. So it was a big fight. Not a cherry pick, far from that, okay? Ricky Hatton, another guy that I felt like not as big as Oscar, obviously, but he was undefeated at the time. And I wanted to see the fight, Whenever you looked up, the top 10 and resumes and stuff like at 147 and 140, Ricky Hatton was always right there. He was undefeated. And I remember talking about the fight that people wanted to see this fight. I mean, this is at a tough time because there's Ricky Hatton and then there's all of these other guys like Cotto and Paul Williams. And I get to all of these other fighters later because I'm going to do more of that in the end of the video here. But Ricky Hatton was a fight I wanted to see. They were both undefeated, and I wanted to see the fight. So I don't think it was a cherry pick fight. Regardless if you think Floyd was going to win, I really didn't. I was going for Floyd, but I wanted to see this fight, okay? Now, Floyd went on his 2-year retirement, right? comes back and fight Marquez. In between that time, you got all these other fighters like Cotto, Margarito, Paul Williams. You got all these other fighters in the mix, all right? Berto. You got all these other fighters in the mix that people want to see Floyd fight. A lot of people feel that Floyd left because he didn't want to get in the mix with all of these other fighters, all right? So he comes back, fight Marquez. I did not like this fight, okay? It's not that I didn't like it, but I didn't care for it, all right? Because just like Baldomir, I feel like Marquez didn't really have the tools. Great counterpuncher, great boxer, great future Hall of Famer. Stylistically, I didn't think Marquez was going to be a problem for Floyd, and it was an easy fight for Floyd. And I'm telling you how I felt leading to the fight. They're not talking about the aftermath of the fight. Leading up to the fight, I didn't think Marquez was going to pose a threat to Floyd. I actually thought I thought more of the Ricky Hatton fight. I thought more of the Oscar De La Hoya fight. I thought more of the Zab Judah fight. The Marquez fight, it didn't really do anything for me. It was just like, all right, he's coming back. But in his defense, he didn't fight for 2 years, and he's fighting a really good fighter. It's just that Marquez was too small. You know, Marquez is coming up in weight, and I was like, that's going to be an easy fight for Floyd, you know, and it was, all right? Shane Mosley, so much history behind this fight. I wanted to see it originally 10 years ago, 10 years before the fight actually happened. You know, but we got it when we got it, and I was happy. I've said this before on the channel. This was the one and only fight that I picked Floyd to lose, okay? I was a huge Shane Mosley fan, all right? Still am. One of my favorite boxers of all time. Even more so than Floyd. I actually have Mosley as one of my favorites, my personal favorites, over Floyd Mayweather. It's only a few fighters I have over Floyd. I have Tyson over Floyd. I have Roy Jones and Mosley over Floyd. One of my favorite boxers of all time. And, you know, you got to remember, at this time, people say now that he fought an old Shane Mosley, but Shane Mosley came off a huge win against Antonio Margarito, okay? So I know everything about, you know, the loaded gloves and everything, but it was a great win because he still knocked him out. You know, he knocked out, I don't believe Margarito ever been knocked out. We all know of him having a tough chin. You know, very durable fighter, and Mosley was able to go in there and knock him out. Okay, it was a great performance. And before, you know, he jumped in the ring and Floyd's post fight against Marquez and called Floyd out to his face, and I was excited. I wanted to see this fight. You know, people hate it now, but you didn't hate it in that second round. I know I didn't hate it in that second round when Mosley almost knocked him out. You know, people say it stinks now, but at that time, I thought it was a great fight. Victor Ortiz. This was a fight that I know Victor just beat Andre Berto, and Floyd was going to fight the winner of that fight, and he did. He fought Victor Ortiz. So I understand the fight. The dude is a world titleist. Okay, he's a young fighter, world titleist, and I understand why the fight happened. Did I like the fight? I felt the same way that I felt about Marquez and Baldomir. I felt like Ortiz really didn't have what it took to beat Floyd at this point. You know, Ortiz, I thought he was a good fighter and everything, but I just didn't think it was going to be a tough fight for Floyd. I thought this was going to be an easy fight for Floyd, and I just wasn't impressed with the fight. I wasn't, honestly. Cotto, the other fight that I really wanted to see. I mean, there was Cotto, Oscar, all these fights I really wanted to see. I wanted to see Cotto. I wanted to see Mosley, you know. The problem with Cotto is that I wish it happened early. I wish it happened before Floyd retired, you know, or in between that time. I wanted Cotto against Floyd so bad when Cotto beat Shane and Zab Judah. That's when I really wanted to see Miguel Cotto. I was like, you know what? This kid is good. I want to see him face Floyd Mayweather. You know, and that's when I became a huge Cotto fan, when he beat Zab and when he beat Shane Mosley, because Zab and Shane Mosley is like I'm a big fan of both of them. So I wanted to see Cotto. This is when I became a Cotto fan, and I wanted to see that fight. I thought the fight was a little too late because I didn't think Cotto was the same fighter that he was before he fought Margarito. But I wasn't mad at it neither. You know, Cotto was a champ at 154. All these guys were champs at holding titles, so they were holding titles. So you can't say that they're cherry picked, but the timing was off. You know, I wanted the Cotto match earlier. But then there are fights that I really wanted that he gave to me that I was really surprised that he took. Cotto, I love the fight. I wish it happened earlier, but still, even at the time that it happened, I'm glad that it happened. You know, I wanted to see the fight. All right, so I was happy with that fight. Guerrero, I hated this fight. I hated this more than Ortiz. I hated this fight more than Marquez. I hated this fight. It's just a fight. It was a meaningless fight to me. I know he beat Andre Berto and everything, but there was nothing about Guerrero that made me feel that he should have been in the ring with Floyd Mayweather. People defended say, you know, Floyd had a year off. You know, he did his 3 months in prison. You know, he came back and he fought, you know, Guerrero. I hated the fight. I knew it was going to be easy, regardless of Floyd having a year off. He dominated Guerrero, and that was that. I hated that fight. I thought it was a cherry pick fight. I don't care how long he had off. I thought the fight was whack. All right. Better than Berto fight though. Better than Berto. Canelo, great fight. I didn't think Floyd would take the fight. I thought Floyd would win the fight, but I didn't think Floyd would take that risk of fighting Canelo. Canelo's a bigger guy, young star at 154, could box real good and high power. I think I picked Floyd to win. I did a prediction. That's my first prediction video on here. I just didn't think Floyd would take the risk of fighting him. I was surprised. So was that a cherry pick? No. Yeah, we could say it was now because Floyd dominated him. And, you know, a lot of people feel that a lot of it has to do with race, that Floyd is beating these guys and, you know, the slow Mexican fighters that he fights. You know, a lot of people want to see him fight more slick black fighters than fighting guys like Canelo and Guerrero and Ortiz. But honestly, I think Canelo was a great matchup. You beat him undefeated. And you know what? If you look at Austin Trout and you look at Austin Trout and Erislandy Lara, Floyd beat him better than the both of those guys did. You know, he did it. Lara fought him after, and Canelo looked better against Lara than he did against Floyd. Canelo did terrible against Floyd. He damn near got shut out. You know, so I love the Canelo fight. That's definitely one of the bigger fights up there. Maidana, I thought that was cherry picked. And I know Maidana beat or undefeated Adrian Broner. I understand that. But there was no way in my life that I ever thought Floyd Mayweather would be in the ring with Marcos Maidana. But that fight ended up being tougher than any other fight on his resume at 147. The Maidana fight was Floyd's hardest fight at 147. The first fight. Was just shocking. But leading up to that fight, it was just another fight. I wish Floyd had picked Amir Khan, but Maidana had the bigger win at the time, being Adrian Broner that was undefeated. And now, you know, just like Berto was, people that beat them, Berto got the shot with Floyd. You know, people that, you know, now that Maidana beat Broner, it kind of end up being the same thing, all right? So Maidana got the fight. I didn't like it, but ended up being a really good fight, a very competitive fight. But I still felt like that wasn't a fight that, you know, I really cared for. Manny Pacquiao. I mean, everybody wanted that fight, all right? That's not a cherry pick fight. Yeah, like Cotto, like Mosley, happened a little too late, okay? But Pacquiao beat Tim Bradley last year. He beat Chris Algieri. I know Chris Algieri doesn't really seem like nothing, but Algieri was undefeated, and he did knock him down 6 times. So Pacquiao coming off of those wins, he's still at the top at the welterweight division. The fight should have happened when it happened, regardless if it was 2010 or 2015. That fight happened. It's not a cherry pick fight, okay? Regardless of how it went. Now, let's get into some of the fighters that I wanted Floyd to see. Like, I wanted to see Floyd face, okay? Sergio Martinez. I wanted to see that fight. I can't remember the timeline, okay? I can't remember. But I remember around the time Martinez beat and knocked out Paul Williams. That catapulted him up to the top of the 5. A lot of pound-for-pound lists had him at the top 5. Okay, with Ward and with Pacquiao. You know, a lot of people had him up there. And I wanted to see the fight. Okay, and that's a fight that I thought Floyd could win. I don't know why Floyd didn't take that fight. I think that would have been a great opportunity to fight a guy that people respected at 160. Sergio Martinez was always very good to me. I just didn't think he was on Floyd's level, and I think Floyd should have took that fight when people started talking about it. I just can't remember in between what fight that people were talking about it the most. Because I even see, like, it was around the time when people wanted the Pacquiao fight. So I want to say it was around 2010, 2011, where people started talking Sergio Martinez. Berto. I wanted Berto fight. I wanted the Berto fight. I wanted the Berto fight more so around 2008, okay? Before he actually lost to Victor Ortiz, which was a great fight, I kind of wanted Berto. I kind of didn't see I kind of started realizing that Berto wasn't as talented as I thought he was. Okay, and I saw that in the Louis Collazo fight. Um, but it was before. All I know is it was before he actually lost. But there was a point between 2006 to 2008 where I was like, "Yo, this Berto kid is good." I wanted to see him fight Floyd. I did want that fight. Okay, but we didn't get the fight. Amir Khan. I always wanted to see the Amir Khan fight. Even now, I still kind of want to see it, just to see the styles. I like Amir Khan offensively. I think he's great. Defensively, he's not so great, and he has a glass jaw. But I always wanted to see the fight, and I always thought he would give Floyd trouble. I've said that countless times on this channel. I know Khan is annoying. I know he gets on my nerves with his interviews and the things that he say. I feel like he's always trolling, but he's not. But he's a good fighter, and I think he would give Floyd a good fight. I would have rather seen him fight him than Maidana and Andre Berto. I always wanted to see that fight. I always wanted to see the Pacquiao fight, all right? Even when Khan was undefeated, I wanted to see the fight all the way back then, before he lost to Prescott, all right? Eris Lanley Lara, that's the biggest fight I probably wanted to see for the last couple of years now, last few years, okay? I always wanted to see this fight. And we're never going to get it. I know Floyd's not going to fight this guy. But I've always wanted to see this fight. I think people, complain or people say that would be a boring fight. But, they watch fights like Manny Pacquiao and they say that fight is boring. They watch Guerrero, they say that fight was boring. They watch Canelo, they say that fight was boring. You saw Maidana too, that fight was boring. When Floyd gives you the fight that you want, and you dominate him, or he dominates them, it was a boring fight. It was a cherry pick. I think Lara, stylistically, it would be a very technical fight, yes. It wouldn't be a lot of punches thrown. It wouldn't be a lot of action. But I think it would be a good fight. I think it would be a really good technical fight. And I think Floyd would actually have to be very, very careful in that fight. Trying to think. Tim Bradley. I would probably say Tim Bradley is the most deserving fighter that Floyd should have faced that didn't get the fight. And I don't think he ever will get the fight. Especially if Floyd actually retires. Tim Bradley deserves it more than everybody out there. I don't think he could beat Floyd, but he deserves the fight at any point. If Floyd was to fight him next, he deserves it. If Floyd was to fight him after he beat Pacquiao, he deserved it. He always deserved the fight. Even coming up from 140, being at 140, I think he deserved it back then. I think Bradley, at any given moment, at any given time, deserved the fight with Floyd Mayweather. He hasn't looked great lately. He's been, he beat Jesse Vargas, but, he didn't look great in that fight because of the end. Didn't look good against Diego Chavez. He lost against Pacquiao, but I still think Bradley deserves a fight at any given moment in his career. All right, and I can't even say he's slowing down yet. He didn't look great lately, but I can't say he's slowing down because he's still at a good age and he's still fighting pretty good. All right, Paul Williams. This is when I wanted to see the fight before Floyd left. Before around the time he fought Hatton, I wanted to see the fight with Paul Williams, okay? Paul Williams, like Lara, is one of those fights that I thought will always be a hard fight for Floyd, stylistically. For different reasons. Williams' volume is so high. You know, it's hard to beat him for 12 rounds. Even when you're landing, Floyd would be forced to fight more than we usually see him. Floyd would be forced to throw in more punches against Paul Williams. He would have to, because Paul keeps coming and Floyd wouldn't be able to knock him out, okay? He would have to fight similar to how Carlos Quintana fought him. And, you know, he would have to land the bigger shots. You're not going to outpunch him. But, you know, landing a clean, more meaningful shot is what Floyd would have to do. But since Floyd is not a huge puncher, he would have to keep at it for 12 rounds. And it would have been a tough fight for Floyd. I think Floyd would win, but it would have been a very, very tough fight. Paul Williams is a very, very hard guy to beat. All right. And even when Lara won that fight, because he really won that fight, you never seen Lara throw that many punches. Like, Lara fought more than what he would like to, you know, and that's what I feel the same would happen with Floyd Mayweather. Okay, I always wanted to see that fight. I think Paul Williams and Lara are probably, out of the list of people that I have here, right? I think Pacquiao in 2010, Lara, and Paul Williams were probably stylistically his best matchups. Okay, the most difficult. And he didn't fight. He fought Pacquiao in 2015. He never fought Lara. He never fought Paul Williams. Okay. So in that sense, people like to call him a cherry picker because of those fights. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what was going on at the time that he fought Paul Williams. But that would have been a tough fight. And I don't know if Paul Williams was holding a title. I don't know. You know, I know Lara's been holding a title, or I know if he's the number one contender. I don't know what, but those are the fights that I feel like stylistically Floyd would have had a hard time winning those matches against Paul Williams, Lara, and a 2010 version of Manny Pacquiao. All right, Pacquiao's still good, but Pacquiao, he had the speed, the output, and he had the punching power because he was knocking guys out. So those would have been a harder fight. Broner, I wanted to see the fight. You know, there was a small instance, a period when he was at lightweight. I was like, I want to see him fight Floyd, but you know, we were never going to see that fight. And you know, at lightweight, you know, Broner was a little better at lightweight because his power, it was more effective at 135, but hasn't been since then. And last but not least, Antonio Margarito, another guy that was around that time with Cotto and Paul Williams and all these guys when Floyd fought Hatton, was another guy that was doing his thing at 147 at the time, a bigger welterweight. I didn't want to see this fight. You know, this is a name that I always see comes up. I didn't want to see this fight. I know he's volume like Williams, and you know he has a great chin and everything, but I didn't look at him as the same way as Paul Williams. I thought Paul Williams was better because of his height and his reach. You know, I think Margarito was more like a stand right in front of you type of guy. It was just too easy to hit. I think the volume would have been there, but it wouldn't have been as effective as it would with Paul Williams, because Paul Williams, he just doesn't slow down. I think Margarito, you can slow him down a little bit if you keep, you know, offensively keep landing some big shots. I just don't think Margarito had that same effect. A lot of people say that Floyd should have fought Margarito or he ducked Margarito. I really don't think that was a duck at the time like that, at least in my opinion. That wasn't a fight I really wanted to see, but I wanted to put his name out there because I hear his name all the time. But in my, you know, like I said, that's the last of the list that I have. I think of everybody, you know, if I had to do a top 5 most difficult, and if there's anybody that I forgot, please put it in the comments. Guys that you wanted to see Floyd face at 147, 154, like around the time when Floyd became Money Mayweather. If there's fighters that you wanted Floyd to face, that I didn't name, or you wanted them, just leave it in the comments. But in my opinion, it's based on styles. All right, I like Zab Judah. Okay, I like the Zab Judah fight. I like the Oscar De La Hoya fight. Um, you know, I wasn't, it's like I knew Floyd would. I picked Floyd to win, but I wasn't sure. I thought it was going to be a tough fight. I thought Mosley was going to be a tough fight. I did think Mosley was going to be a tough fight. I liked that fight. I thought Cotto was going to be a tough fight. I thought Canelo was going to be a tough fight. I thought Pacquiao was going to be a tough fight. All right. And, out of the guys that he didn't face, the guys that I seriously wanted him to face that he did not fight was Tim Bradley. Always wanted to see that fight. Was Sergio Martinez. Was Paul Williams. I wanted to see Lara. Those are like the 4 guys that he didn't fight that I really wanted to see him face, that I really thought he should have faced. Okay, all of the other guys, some of them didn't fight, that he did fight. He didn't fight them at the time I wanted them to, but I was happy when he did fight them at the same time, because they might not have been the same as they once was, but you could say that about Floyd too. And not only that, but he did fight him at good times. All right. So I don't think Floyd is a cherry picker in the least bit. All right. There was a lot of fights on there that I wanted. There were some fights that I didn't get, but there was fights that I did not want to see, but I understood why he fought them, because they just won a title in a division. And even though stylistically I thought it was an easy fight for Floyd, they were holding a title in the division that he fights in. Okay. And they came off of a big fight, or they had 1 or 2 big fights prior to when Floyd fought him. Okay. So anyway, that's my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think, and include anyone that I didn't say. If you even want to put like a top 5, whatever, do whatever. Just put it in the comments. I know it's a pretty long video, but I wanted to bring up all of these guys. Everybody says he's a cherry picker. He's not a cherry picker, but there was plenty of times I got what I wanted, and there's times where I didn't get what I wanted. Okay, but that's just the game, especially with him, a guy that fights only twice a year and stuff like that. All right, so let me know what you guys think. Peace.